thank you very much, everyone. We're here to talk to you about a new partnership that Lumen and IAS have entered into to scale attention. If we go on to the next, so we have some pretty pictures here. So my name is Mike Follett. I'm one of the founders of Lumen. This year is our 10th birthday, so it's exciting to have finally made it into a church to some sort of recognition of that. So my name's Mike.
And I'm Emma, and I head up the sales team at IAS in Northern Europe.
Very good.
So we're going to... Oh,
yes, so we have to introduce ourselves properly.
Sorry, who is IAS? So hopefully most of you know who we are, but we are the leading global media measurement and optimization platform. Our business is about providing the industry's most actionable data. So when we say actionable data, comprehensive data, we're capturing over 280 billion interactions on a daily basis globally. But data that is also enriched through our proprietary technology, AI and machine learning capabilities, and data that is in real time, a critical component of good data. And this is all about driving superior results for the thousands of agencies and advertisers and publishers that we work with across the world. That's us.
Very good. And some of you may know Lumen already, but we're a leading attention company. We've developed our own software that turns your computer or your phone's webcam into an eye tracking camera, which means that we can collect data from panels of people around the world. To date, we've done research amongst 500,000 people and counting to understand what it is that people could see, and then what it is that people do actually end up looking at. And we turn that into models that which we'll talk about in a second. So it's very nice to be here. What we thought we might try and do is I could spend 5 or 10 minutes talking about attention in general and making sure what it is, and we all understand and agree what it is, how it works, and how we model it. And then I'm going to pass over to Emma, who's going to talk about the partnership, about how we scale this out globally, driving not only attention, but also outcomes. And then after that, we're going to have one of those weird, slightly awkward Q&A sessions where Emma's going to ask me a series of pre-prepared questions.
Well, no, we're going to do it on the fly as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a little bit of an attention background. Okay, so... who has a 5-year-old in the house at the moment? Yeah, very good. Who has been 5? Yeah, nice to see. Yeah. Well, all of you will remember the game I Spy with My Little Eye. Or I think most of you did. I did this in Germany a while ago, and they don't have that game there, which is a strike. But we do over here. Anyone who's been on a journey with a 5-year-old will know that you play the game I Spy with My Little Eye, something beginning with C. And you look out the window and you see, is there a car or a cat or a chimney? And the game is to see something, to realize that there's a difference between viewability and viewing. Things are there to be seen, but not always noticed. And it's nice to have Mark here. Mark tells the same sort of story with Where's Waldo, or as he's known over here, Where's Wally? Same sort of thing, that there's a big difference between what is viewable and what is actually viewed. And 10 years of eye tracking experience have taught us that there are very big differences by media and by format in terms of getting noticed things. And we would definitely agree with everything that was said at the first half of the last panel there about the importance of this probabilistic approach. Not everything gets noticed. But long car journeys here also teach us about the importance of time as well. Because it isn't just about whether or not things get noticed, but how long things get noticed for. Decades of attention research in the, not just about advertising, but more importantly about driving, have told us that the time that people have to see things dramatically affects how likely they are to remember it or act on things. This is why road signs are so short, because not only do you have a short amount of time to look at these things, but people only give short amount of times to roads to road safety signals. Time is really, really important. And we know that time is also really, really important for advertising. So many of you will have seen me on stage before talking about the difference between the amount of time that's given to TV, cinema and TV versus Facebook and YouTube. It's actually quite nice to have a load of people in the audience today who've used that data as well. So I'm sure Mark Slade from Digital Turbine will come and talk about the importance of actually getting people to look at things for a long time. It's nice to see Dan G from WeTransfer. Again, the guys at WeTransfer have some very, very hard data to say that it isn't just about whether your ads get noticed, but how long they get noticed for. And that while there are differences between these things, there are consistencies in that data across media. So it's not one thing or the other. It's both together. And having one of the largest eye tracking data sets in the world allows us to measure both and to predict both. Because you have to be able to understand whether or not people are going to look at things. That is tremendously important. But also estimating how likely they are to look at those things, conscious that there's variation there, but having that data is super important. We think it's important to have both, and that's what we collect, and that's what we provide. So one of the questions that we're thinking about attention is why is it so important now? Why is this, I grew up in the world of advertising, and every year from about 1998 onwards was the year of mobile. And finally, mobile is ubiquitous. It's been the year of attention for the last 4 years, but it really does seem to be happening now. Why is it so important? Well, the first thing is, I think we now have the data. We have large amounts of data because of technological improvements. Lumen's technology improves all the time, and we get more and more data. But it's also interesting that players like T-Vision have come into the UK market to offer TV data. We'll have some talks today from Ben from Playground. Their technology works in a very similar way to Lumen's technology. And just being able to collect the data is super, super important. Secondly, you don't just have to collect the data, but you have to predict the data. You have to be able to use it, to fit this into programmatic buying. And here I have a picture of a server. If you don't know what that is, that's meant to be an artistic picture of a server. Being able to actually apply this data is super, super important to both pre-bid and post-bid. It's all very well saying that one ad gets more attention, or one format gets more attention than the other. You have to do something with it. And things like custom algorithms have allowed us to apply this data in pre-bid ways, importantly. And then finally, the alternatives to attention are, in a sense, falling apart. Cookies are going away. In many ways, in many cases, I mean, I bet you've all got iPhones, in a sense that you're in the lead here of the death of the cookie. And so suddenly contextual targeting tools like attention suddenly become disproportionately more important. In the old days, we could get away with tracking people and spying on them. That is no longer available. And so suddenly these contextual targeting data sets like ours become very important. So how does it work then? Just to be clear about how we do it. The first thing is that we have to go and collect a lot of ground truth data. We have developed our own software that does this for mobiles and desktops, and we work with T-Vision, who many of you will know, to collect the same sort of data for TV in the US, the UK, and Japan. All of this data is collected to similar standards. So we collect whether or not people are looking at things and how long they look at them for. But having collected this ground truth data, you then have to turn it into a predictive model. None of the attention partners that you'll talk to today is collecting attention across every single impression there and simply reporting it in a deterministic fashion. All of us have some attention data, or most of us have some attention data that we've collected and then built a predictive model that you apply to viewability data on top of that. But as Mark was saying, and Marco was saying, it isn't just about predicting attention, it's about linking to outcomes, whatever they might be. Some advertisers are interested in driving memories. you know, making sure that their brands are remembered. Others are interested in driving money. And it's making sure that that predictive model can link to the outcomes that you're interested in for your brand that's super, super important. So that's how we work. But we also have a problem at Lumen. We have many problems at Lumen, to be honest. But we have three that I wanted to talk to you about. One is that Britain, while it's a wonderful country full of exciting, interesting peoples, is a very small country in comparison to the rest of the world. The world is a very, very big place. And scaling attention for a company like Lumen has been a challenge. I've just come back from a month in America, setting up a team there, but I'm going to have to go and do the same thing in France and in Germany and in Japan and in South Africa. That is a challenge for a company like Lumen, just to get global scale very, very quickly. The second thing is about bundling our stuff. We have pre-bid integrations and our own viewability tag. But often clients come to us and go, not another tag. Oh, for God's sake, I put enough tags on my ads. Surely, if you're just collecting a load of viewability data for your post-bid stuff, why don't you just piggyback on someone else's tag? Which is a good idea, actually, when you think about it. Rather than taking two tags into the shower, why don't you just use the viewability data that you're collecting from your other partners and make predictions on that? Wouldn't that be a better idea? And then finally, relationships are tremendously important. Trust between a tech company and a client company is hard to come by sometimes, and it's important to generate that over time. And for us, it's been very important to build on the trust of our existing relationships and find partners who are equally or even better trusted than we are. And so when we were thinking about a global company who already has deep integrations with clients and technology companies around the world and is already a trusted partner to some of the world's biggest brands, it became a bit of a no-brainer to work with IAS. And so, over to you, Emma.
Thanks, Mike. So why did we jump into bed, metaphorically, with the Lumen team? So at IAS, we are a media quality business. We have a ton of media quality metrics because that is ultimately the foundation of where we work. But we recognize that attention couldn't only be defined by one metric or another, but ultimately, this is our point of view on attention, but it's ultimately a number of signals that when measured and optimized together have the ability then only to drive better results. And we felt that a true attention measurement framework, model, absolutely needed to have a human element. And that was something that didn't currently exist within the IAS wheelhouse. So for us, once we realized that the human data piece was missing from all of the other metrics that we had already, we then went we decided that, again, like Lumen, there was no point, building our own solution, and actually we could partner with somebody that was already an expert in that space. So after an extensive review of the market, we chose to partner with Lumen, and it was really for three main reasons. Number one, they have real human data. So they're able to measure both the chance that an ad will be viewed and also how long it will be viewed for. And we believe at IAS, oops, that's the mic. We believe that you can't predict human attention if you don't actually have human attention data in the first place. So that was kind of critical for us. They have one of the largest attention data sets in the world and have measured over already 500,000 individuals. That's also important that they have the scale. But critically, and you mentioned this before, they are a trusted and transparent partner. So IAS, this is a core value of our business, as you would imagine. We're a verification business. We didn't want to work with a partner that had any kind of black box. And we were happy that the Lumen models have actually been independently audited by PwC. So trust and transparency is critical to this partnership, and it's been really important in terms of how we've managed to scale between our data science scientists and engineers between the two companies. If we didn't have that trust and transparency, I don't think we would have got to where we have to today so quickly. So here we are. This is kind of the perfect equation as we define our attention solution at IAS. So we have the IAS actionable data powered by like RAI models, plus the Lumen eye tracking, and ultimately for us it is about driving business results. So everything we're doing is about how do we further and deliver outcomes for our advertisers and agencies. So when we were starting to build our framework for attention, we really looked at it. Quality attention is based on kind of three buckets, three pillars: visibility, situation, and interaction. So if we go into each one of those in a little bit more detail. So visibility, I mean, essentially this is viewability. Can your ad be seen, like, or not? Without viewability, the conversation around attention pretty much kind of ends. It cannot occur. But situation is also critical. So what are the signals that we can derive from the environment in which that ad impression is served? So how many ads are on the page? What's the share of voice? What's the type of content that's surrounding that ad? Because context is a critical signal that we also need to measure. And then the final piece was interaction. So this is a very personal metric. And of course, we can measure things like, does a user scroll up and down? Do they switch? Do they pause or unpause content? But that gives you like information about the pixel on the page, but it doesn't actually give you information about what that human is delivering. And also, you know, we just mentioned older people have slightly different browsing behavior to younger people. So we really thought that the missing part was the human, the actual eye tracking data. And that's essentially what we're able to now bring into our model through the partnership with Lumen, like the missing piece for us. So it all sounds great on paper and a theoretical framework that has taken us a while to develop, but how is it performing? Is it actually working? Is it driving results? Well, I think we're happy to say that we've done significant testing both in the alpha and the beta phase. And across the board, we're starting to see like very, very promising results. So this is just we've got a ton of case studies. We've also got a great white paper if you want to take a look. But just wanted to call out this one case study that we ran with HP recently. So we looked at the impact of media quality and attention for an ad campaign that HP were running around a big sports event. And we looked at the attention each ad received, and we scored it. So as you would expect, I guess, ads that we defined at IAS as in view had an 11.5 higher attention score. That feels quite logical. But I think what's more important and more valuable is that the impressions that had the higher attention score actually delivered 3 times more conversion success events. And not only did they deliver higher numbers of success events, but they delivered them at a much lower cost. So at a 70% reduced cost, so actually an efficiency play as well as a scale play. So that's kind of where we've got to. We're on the stage today talking about the partnership, and we're pretty much ready to go. But lots of case studies still going on in the background, still beta testing happening. But we are super excited, honestly, to be partnering with Lumen. We think this partnership really provides a true holistic model for attention that will only grow over time. So now, we're going to do our chat.
Yes, time for a slightly staged and awkward chat.
I have to pick my
very good.
You
have some questions.
My questions.
Yeah, look at that.
We might go off piece though.
Yeah. Right.
Right, let's move you over here. Eek. Okay, Mike. Let's kick off. Let's make this actionable.
Right.
What can people do today that they couldn't do yesterday when it comes to the Lumen IAS partnership?
Well, the very first thing is I think you can now get Lumen through IAS. So everything you get from Lumen in terms of post-bid measurement, in terms of taking your viewability data and then converting that into attention data. That's what we get from the Lumen post-bid tag, and right today you can get that from IAS. So we have 27 clients using this at the moment, all around the world, so mostly in the States, but often lots of people in Italy and France, and obviously in the UK trialing it right now. And with that, you get a new dashboard, which works out all your viewability stuff, and then compartmentalizes all your data into those 3 buckets, so you can see how that all builds together to create an attention score. So yeah, that's what you get at the moment.
And actually, I think it's worth mentioning that if you're a current IAS customer, it's pretty straightforward because it's all like within the same platform that we already.
It's just an extra screen on the dashboard, I think.
Yeah, super easy. So that's great. That's today on the post-bid side. So what else is coming down the line? What's next in this partnership in terms of the roadmap and where we're going together?
Well, in the short term, it's going from post-bid to pre-bid. All these companies like IAS have, frankly, and please don't take this the wrong way, but have been telling you about what happened yesterday rather than what's happening today or tomorrow. And I think that there's a move from you guys in general, and your competitors, because I mean, Double Verified bought Sybids for exactly this reason, which is to stop telling you about what happened and start informing what's going to happen. So, as many of you know, we have a load of pre-bid tools at Lumen, and they fit in quite nicely with the existing pre-bid tools that IAS have, because I know that your corporate strategy is to go very much more towards the pre-bid. In Europe, of course, IAS does that an awful lot already. I don't know if we've got anyone from the Nordics here, but I understand that in the Nordics, IAS makes most of your money pre-bid.
Yeah, the whole kind of post-bid blocking verification, that's just not a business in the Nordics. For them, it's about how do I create audiences and understand kind of upper funnel, how I'm going to find the right media, like, rather than having to block the wrong media. So it's just a different way.
So they're, you know, the plucky Swedes ahead of us again. But in a sense, following their lead and going, you know, the post-bid stuff is phase 1. In Q1 next year, we'll launch the phase 2 of this, which is the pre-bid stuff. But then we've got, and that's all happening in the next 3 to 6 months. But there's a whole lot of other quite cool things happening. One of the things that when you collect lots and lots of data from millions and millions of ads and, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, you can build models about the box on the screen, you know, the rectangle on the screen, you know, for Facebook or for YouTube or for TikTok. How likely are people to look at this box rather than that box? But we've also been collecting millions of data points about what's inside the box, about the creative itself. And so we're already, you know, distinguishing between media and creative, but in one sort of way we've been throwing away all the creative data in quite a wasteful way. But advances in AI mean that we can now start interpreting that. And so we're now working with DCO companies, or dynamic creative optimization companies, to create predictive models of attention based on the creative. These are pretty ropey, to be honest. Creative is really, really hard. And so we're starting at the very lowest sort of elements there. But that creative element is going to be important. And then expanding beyond the desktop and mobile screen. Obviously, our partnership with TVision and your partnership with TVision means that we'll be able to do all of this, but for CTV and fast. We've got lots of stuff with gaming, which is always on the cusp of exploding, but it's not quite there yet, but it will. And so that'll be exciting, working with Anzu to do intrinsic in-game advertising, or people like Digital Turbine about rewarded view stuff as well. So there's a long list of NPD that comes out of this, and I think that it's probable that Lumen will launch most of these innovations with IAS first, and then with everybody else independently afterwards.
Which one are you most excited about?
I'm really excited. Well, the pre-bid stuff is really important, because I think, as the previous panel rightly said, everything everything has to link to outcomes. If you're just doing it on post-bid stuff, you have to look at what happened and then make changes manually. It's the pre-bid stuff that's really, really exciting because that sort of concertinas all that decision-making into one thing. The thing is, we've been doing that for ages. So it's very exciting for some people, but it's sort of what we've been doing for. So personally, I'm most excited about the creative stuff because that's new and weird and different. But I think in business terms, it's the pre-bid stuff.
I think it's good that you brought up creative because lots of events that I go to, it feels like they live in two different worlds. So you've got the media quality and the kind of performance and efficiency play over here, and then you've got creative.
Yeah.
And actually, like those two things
are
mutually dependent. And I think, how do we help?
Well, I think the previous panel, I think, was absolutely right in saying that it isn't about buying more attention. It's about buying the right level of attention for that message or for that creative. So we're already, we have a whole load of creative testing tools that allow us to build brand-specific models of attention, but it is a bit clunky. We do it, but it's hard work. And that's why I think this AI-ification of things will allow for a far more scalable thing in the future.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I know you've got a point of view on standardization, so picking up on the previous panel, like what's your point of view on the standardization of attention? And
I think sometimes we can be quite insular in Britain and don't realise that there are big standardization discussions afoot as we speak. So over in the States, there are two organisations that are trying to look into this issue right now. One is called the Advertising Research Foundation, the ARF, and they recently published a 156-page document on this, which is a sort of, apologies, but sort of a fuck you to, nobody's going to read that, there. But they're taking it very seriously. The other group that's taking it really seriously is the IAB. So if you're not involved with with Angelina Ing or Angie Ing's IAB thing, I'm sure many of organisations will be. But both of those organisations are doing quite a lot of work to do that. It looks like they are going towards a sort of very, very soft standardisation. Definitely not what Mark was talking about, the binary yes or no thing. And I think that's something that everyone wants to avoid. But there are movements towards some sort of at least standardization of terms and so. The organisation that will set proper standards is the MRC, the Media Ratings Council, and they are very much waiting for these two other organisations to come together. And I think probably it is unlikely to be a sort of a JIC-led thing or a joint industry committee thing. It'll probably be a very, very soft standardization. But there will be some standardization, and there'll be some sort of transparency standards to allow you that. So that's probably where it's going to go.
And as much as I'm loving my time on the altar, it's sending me back to when I was 12 years old and at the lectern at church being forced to read something. But just one question, because we didn't get a chance to participate in the poll. But do you think that attention is going to ultimately replace viewability? What's your...
I feel a bit awkward on stage because you've got a whole company that does this, and I don't want to slag off viewability.
We're evolving. That's why we're doing a partnership around attention.
But yeah, I think it probably will be, or rather, what viewability will be, won't be such a binary thing. Yeah. The viewability standards have a whiff of a committee about them, don't they? Like, 50% of the pixels. Why 50 rather than 43 or 62 or whatever? And why 1 second rather than 2? You can see that someone in a room got together and just said, oh, let's just pick a number, and that's what they did. I think probably, and in those senses, I think it's going to be really hard to pick a number for attention because there is so much variation and different advertisers will need different things, and setting these really, really arbitrary standards probably won't be there. But what will happen is that everyone will start using the viewability metrics in a sort of slightly more composite way. Instead of just saying it was on screen for this amount of time and then leaving it, the buy side will start using the viewability metrics as a and now you've wrapped them all up already. You've put 7 or 8 of them all together. Yeah. But I think that's going to be the use of the viewability data in the future.
I couldn't agree more. I think as a standalone metric, it serves a purpose, but I think as a part of a holistic solution, then it's far more valuable. And I think, like you said, although we've defined it around those 3 pillars of, interaction, visibility, and situation, like, again, those are also nuanced by brand, by advertiser. So, it's a good framework, and I think it's a good starting point, but, ultimately, attention is personal, and I think it needs to be kind of probably, nuanced and defined a little bit more on a brand by brand basis, or at least in that way. Mike, it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for answering my questions. I feel like I'm upskilled in attention already in half an hour. And enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.